Okay, people, everyone in the world thinks of Ken Block as like automotive Jesus. What is the deal with Ken Block? Why do people go so nuts over Ken Block? Is his car going to bring money from heaven when it hits the auction block on Doug DeMuro's Cars and Bids? We're going to talk about that, plus some other predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. Yes, it is. Church is in, apparently. Do you have faith in the car market? My name is John Polnik, and this is a live episode of Bid Nerds. I'm coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, along with my partner over there in San Francisco, Michael Deeb. What's happening?
Ave Maria. I was just praying for funds so I could buy Ken Block's car.
There's probably some kind of plug-in where I could get a halo around our heads or something. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we're going to do a show. Everyone just Tryptophan. I'm definitely feeling it from a couple of days ago. Everybody in the world has been sending me the link to this Ken Block car. A lot of times you guys send us cars to review, and we love that because it's hard for us to pick our, we go through all these cars, and it's like everyone complains about the ones we pick. So it's like, great, you guys send us one. And, of course, everyone sends us the same one stupid car. Mix it up, guys. So we are going to be getting into the listing about Ken Block's car coming up on Doug DeMuro's Cars and Bids. But first, we are going to get into it with the predictions we made on the last episode and see how right or wrong we were on those. But before we even get to that, people have been asking about merch. We just had
merch.
That's right. Black Friday was a couple of days ago, and Cyber Monday is tomorrow. We have hats and t-shirts. Let's see if I can get this up here real quick. How do we do this here? I'm going to go like that.
Where do they find them? Where do they go to find
them? So you got to go. Yeah, the only place you can get them is on Erin Water. See that up there, guys? Erin Water. The ERINN Water on Instagram. She's the artist, and she is making these hats and t-shirts. They are one-offs. So just DM Erin Water and she will get you connected and shipped. If you guys want to order a t-shirt, now's the time to do it. You'll get it in time for Christmas.
Spread the word with a WERD. Grow the herd. Shout out to cousin Mark who came up with that after JP named us Bid Nerds. That's awesome. And that JP, that stuff is handmade in the United States of America. Is that correct?
That is correct. Or at least they're printed here. The hats are probably made somewhere else, but
that's all right.
Yeah, that's a Frato Brima side logo hat. You can get one with the logo in the middle too, but I didn't have any pictures of those. So you're going to have to stick with the side logo. If you want one of the middle logo ones, just tell Erin Water when you DM her that you want one of the center ones. She also has guys custom bracelets available. So we got all the cool stuff. If you're getting ready for Christmas and you have someone to shop for and they're the kind of person that wears a fancy watch or has a fancy car, you can get a bracelet to match their fancy watch or fancy car. Because I know people that have that kind of stuff are kind of hard to shop for. So there it is. Get your guys custom bracelet at Erin Water. All right, let's get to some cars. That's why you guys are all here. We made predictions on the last episode. Have you guys lost faith in the classic car market? Things are really weird. We saw some goofy results on the last on all the listings that we looked at from the last week. So let's get to it. What was the first car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, we were supposed to have Nathan Mers on the show, but Nathan was having all kinds of Mercury retrograde technical difficulties. And despite our best efforts and coming on late, we were not able to have him join us. Instead, we covered a car that Nathan was selling for a client on Bring a Trailer. JP, let's circle back to the 1997 Porsche 911 Carrera S coupe with a 6-speed manual that Nathan had the audacity to run no reserve on BAT just last week. Listed out of Reno, Nevada, and showing 69,000 miles. The big story about this C2S is not the mileage or even really the equipment, but rather, I say, the paint to sample. John, would you have guessed Ocean Jade Metallic at first glance? Do you know your rare shades well enough to have guessed that was the car? or the paint that this car was born in. That makes it very, very rare indeed. C2Ss are strong in the secondary market, but you add PTS and then a host of really tasteful modifications and upgrades. And the recipe spells big money. These are no longer just six-figure cars. These are bringing real collector money. So, John, with all that in mind, I just thought it's a little bit weird kind of time. Modifications can be tricky in the secondary market, and there is no market more finicky, save for Ferrari, than the Porsche market. So, John, I did not think that this car would break 200 grand. I put my bid at just $185,000. JP, you took the over at $190,993. Classic.com reminds us that the average selling price for a C2S with a manual transmission, that's an important piece of it, is $146,700. John, our car did better than most of us expected, but it did stay in the park. The final hammer was $198,000 even, where it sold on 33 bids. I want to remind everyone, Nathan listed this car no reserve. And I do say, I do think that he got to the number he got to. Like, I think it's so impossible to quantify it, but I think he got the most money available because he ran it no reserve. And look at that photography. I mean, John, that's an excellent presentation for the car. You're really selling the romance there. The rare shade, kind of a collectible model, a desirable model. There's still demand for C2Ss with a manual. This one ticked a lot of boxes and brought a lot of money, quite frankly. I'd say he squeezed every drop out of it. Have you talked to him since the result? Do you know if he's happy with this? Is Nathan in the herd tonight?
I haven't spoken with him. I haven't seen him in the herd tonight. Maybe he'll pop in. I still don't understand the serial killer fetish of PTS colors that Porsche buyers just seem to have for these weird colors. I have one of my rules for buying a car, if it's going to be a cool car, if it's going to be something, especially something expensive, $100,000 or more, I think it should be the car. The color should look like it was the car of the bad guy in whatever movie you're watching. And there's no bad guy in any movie driving this weird colored ocean jade. I mean, really, let's face it, that's a fancy way of saying Honda teal. I mean, the bad guy would have to be the bad guy in like a gay porn or something like that.
Miami Vice.
I mean, this is just a ridiculously stupid color for an otherwise amazing car. I have the same disdain for people who will pay that much extra money for these crazy color cars as I do for the people that buy them and have no intention of driving them. When you see the low mileage cars and you know they're just going right into a collection or something like that, I would like to see some data. I would like to see if there's any correlation between people who are into these stupid PTS colors and people that don't actually drive their cars. How often have you been on a back road and seen one of these crazy colored cars actually driven? Or are they always in some kind of dumb collection where some idiot is wiping it down with a diaper and going, oh, look, I got my car. It's 104 or whatever stupid number. I don't get it. This is a great car. I don't really care what color it is. I would like to own one of these, but I wouldn't pay extra for this color. In fact, if I would only own this color if I could get it for less money. To me, it's a big old negative. But what do you guys think? What do you think of that theory?
Oh man,
do you think there's any correlation between people who drive and people who collect for color?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, it's true. It really is, and it bothers me, man. The coolest flex you could do is go buy a collectible car and drive it, and it just doesn't happen, even with the Porsche community. And we see guys spend crazy money to tailor make their Ferraris, and they just stand next to them, and they don't even touch their own cars. And wipe them with it. They pay somebody to wipe them with a diaper. But the cool thing about the Porsche community is most of the guys drive their cars. But yeah, a car like that, JP, it's hard to imagine seeing that car on, even on Nathan's own drive that he used to do up in the Northwest. Or if we were to see that car, say we went out to LA and we wanted to go up to Newcomb's Ranch, I would not expect to see that car on a Friday. Be pleasantly surprised if we did, but I wouldn't put any money on it.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to make fun of me and say that I would rather have a cab. And you know what? I would rather have a cab in a color that's not goofy green than having this wide body thing in a weird color. I don't know. I am not on crack. I am drinking tonight, so maybe that's what it is. But whether or not I was mainlining something, it's like I just don't get it. You guys are going to have to explain it to me. Why would you guys pay extra money for a stupid color for a Porsche? Please explain it to me. Someone get it on there.
Drive it.
And not drive, especially and not drive it. Is there, that's the big question. Is there a correlation between the weird colors and cars not driven? Let's see if we can answer that question in the Nerd Herd. The Nerd Herd always knows. How you guys doing tonight? We got everybody in there tonight. Everybody's hanging out. We actually have Anthony in town from Oursmith. He's actually in the herd tonight. I'm wearing the Aviero watch tonight right there. I'm excited about showing that off. I should have had a Bid Nerds hat tonight. Yeah?
Yeah. Shout out to Stephen Dom, who said, Ferris, he doesn't even drive it. He just wipes it with a diaper in quotation marks. Yes, you caught me quoting Ferris Bueller. Every time I reference, they just wipe it with the diaper. I'm quoting Cameron, I think, talking about his dad's 250, California.
That's right.
So,
all right, guys.
Very well seen by the herd. The Nerd Herd got me.
All right, and it looks somebody missed a Yahtzee by like $7 on that one. I think it was
Randy B.
Randy B.
Usual, not bad.
Nice job, Randy. All right, what other cars
no
did
points
we?
For second place.
Well, you know, the question we're asking at the beginning was, you know, are you losing faith in the classic car market? That result seems pretty good to me. Nearly $200,000.
So.
And, you know, because it's not like the car is particularly low miles, and this is a rootified car. Rootified cars used to bring extra money, and I just don't know if, I mean, that just doesn't seem like that was really pushed. I think the rootified lore has kind of worn off. Do you guys even know who Rudy Macias is? Look him up on the YouTube machine. If you don't, we lost him a few years ago. He's a great guy, so check out his collection. Really awesome cars. But all right, let's take a look at some other cars that we looked at on the last episode and see if it matches up with the idea that people are losing faith in the classic car market. What's the next car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, I selected for us a 1973 Rolls-Royce Corniche Saloon, worthy of checking in on. Our car was on Bring a Trailer out of Phoenix, Arizona, showing 52,000 miles on a repaired odometer. I mean, what are you going to hold them to? The car is 51 years old. But JP, just a big, beautiful, luxurious. I know it's a 70s car, but it just reminds me of sort of that 80s, what do you say, you know, gluttony that we indulged in. It just kind of reminds me of that opulence from an era from when I was a kid and cars were sort of coming online for me, and I imagine myself driving. This was something that, you know, when we were small children was considered untouchable. And, you know, today they're affordable old English cars that buyer beware, but they're really cool. And I just kind of dug this one. I like the colorway, and it looked to be in really nice shape. So JP, a big V8, Connolly leather, all the opulence, all the accoutrement, you know, fancy windows and switches, things that we take for granted were luxury items by Rolls-Royce and Mercedes-Benz in that era. So here we go, JP. These cars don't bring a ton of money. It's kind of surprising when you consider they were like only for millionaires, and millionaires were rare. Today, almost anybody could afford these things. I still thought this one would bring 60 grand. JP, to my surprise, you took the over at 65. Classic.com reminds us that they basically sell for 50. Our car hammered for only $43,000, but the guy took the money. It sold at that number, 26 bids. So JP, I'm a little surprised by that. I mean, I'm over it by 20 grand. So are you. That's you know, that guy brought that car to market with just the intention of letting it go. It was a reserve auction. I don't know if he pulled it during the auction or if it was just set low to begin with. Maybe we outkicked this one. Maybe coupes aren't where it's at, and it's got to be a sedan. I don't know enough about Rolls-Royce, but the condition of this car, the beauty of the car, I thought it had the curb appeal. I thought that car would bring average money or more. It sold for a little bit less. So, you know, who knows how motivated the guy was, but he certainly was realistic about it. And congratulations to the buyer. I think you did pretty good. If that market comes back up, I couldn't imagine that guy selling that car for twice as much someday down the road. So I think it's pretty well bought. What do you say, John?
I don't know. I think he'd have to be Cameron's dad. This seems like that would be his daily driver. Yeah. Cameron being the buddy of Ferris Bueller. You know, Ferris Bueller, it's interesting. Why was the movie called Ferris Bueller? That movie was about Cameron, not Ferris Bueller. I mean, when you think about it, you know, the hero's journey was really usually if you're going to write a good screenplay, your main character, your protagonist, has to start in one place and end in another. Yes, there has to be significant character change by the end of the movie. And Ferris Bueller was basically an archetype. He never changed. He was the same guy from the very beginning to the middle to the end. And the only character that actually progressed, the only character that went through the hero's journey and became a stronger, better person by the end was Cameron. By the end, Cameron was like, you know, at the beginning, he was in fear. He was terrified of his old man. But by the end, he was like, F my dad. And he kicked his Ferrari out the window. Was like, fuck it. I'm not even gonna let Ferris take the blame here. The movie should have been called Cameron takes a
gets
day
shanghaied.
off. Yeah, not Ferris Bueller's day off. But that's, you know, I mean, I guess it's obvious when I don't know anything about a specific car when I go on a rant about a movie. So thanks for giving me something to talk about when I don't know what I'm talking about, which is pretty much all the time. What do you guys think of the result of this Corniche? I honestly, Deeb, I think it is a very pretty car. I don't know why I bid so high on it. I think I just, in the spirit of optimism, you know, hit a number. I just wanted to go above you just because I was like, well, if you're at that, I think it's going to be even more. But I think the problem with these cars is that this is a 1973 Rolls-Royce, and really it looks like a 1955 Rolls-Royce. I mean, I wouldn't know the difference between that era or this one. And it's just this era, I think, is falling out of favor, especially on stuff like, you know, who's buying this? There's no crypto bro that's going to buy this thing. It has to be a boomer that has an appreciation for something like this and who's still kind of in the market for things like this. Most cars like this are being inherited by Gen Xers or millennials whose boomer parents have passed, and they don't want this car. There's nothing cool about that. They're going to trade this in and try to get a Cybertruck, and they can't even do that. So
You nailed it, because you said that the buyer for that car is a boomer. And JP, I mean, this is a broad stroke and a guess, but to me, more boomers are selling than buying right now. Yeah. So that's why these cars are soft. And there you go. That car got picked up for a song. Congrats to the new owner.
Cool car. That's something neat that you can get for a lot of money, but you better have a lot of money laying around to keep it going. All right, let's move on. We made a prediction about the next car. What was the next car on the list?
JP, let's look again at our 2004 Dodge Viper SRT10 convertible that I presented to you as a Christmas present. You should have bought this car, showing just 15,000 miles and listed on Doug DeMuro's Cars and Bid site out of Elburn, Illinois. This car is all stock. It's low miles. It's a decent colorway. It's begging for a Fascination livery, and it should be parked in Vegas or heading its way there. I hope I see your name attached to the winning bid, JP. But before we do that, let's talk about what we thought it would sell for. According to Classic.com, this era of Viper is selling for around $55,700. John, I did not think for a minute this car was going to bring over 50 grand. I don't know why. Doug DeMuro's site for a Viper, maybe it's the right place. I don't know. I could almost see this car doing better on like Hemmings, or what's that one I used to work for? What do they call it? Haggerty. Yeah, those guys. So anyway, because they're domestic heavy, and the Viper is the American rah guy. Anyway, so Doug DeMuro, I think, is more tech and weird and young than this. So I don't know that this is the right platform right out of the gate. And I might contradict what I might have said earlier, but as I look at the result, that's what I think. JP, my bid was 40 grand. Yours was over mine at 43. Both of us $10,000 shy of what Classic.com says is the average, and we were more right than they were. Our car sold for $47,000 on 22 bids. It did a little better than us, but we were still closer to it than Classic was, which is kind of fun to play the game that way. JP, again, the platform, I think the car is nice. I think it's tough that you're selling a complete roadster sports car out of Illinois after Thanksgiving. I think that's a whiff. But I also think that you're on the wrong site with this car, and the presentation was piss poor. So you kind of got what you deserved, and clearly you're good with that because you took the money and ran. So I don't think anybody's licking their wounds. I just think this was somebody getting off the car. Maybe they needed Christmas money. Who knows,
Yeah, I mean, I think this car did just fine. I'm actually pretty surprised how well it did on Cars and Bids. I think maybe this, I mean, I think I talked about this for a second on the last episode. This car should fit into young timer zone, right? Because a lot of the 90s and early aught stuff is what's being sought after by the newly minted, call them crypto bros, or at least folks who are actually coming into income, right? If you're 40 right now, if you're in your late 30s coming into your 40s, sometime in the 40s is when most people start making real income. And that's when guys start looking back at the things that they wanted when they were in their teens and 20s. So this fits into that character, or that slot. So I think this generation of Viper is going to see some appreciation in the future, but not a lot. And because this car doesn't really, it's not like a Corvette or a Mustang. The Viper fits in a world where it's almost exotic. It's not quite, but it's kind of, because they just didn't make these in mass numbers like all the other American muscle cars. You go to any car show and there's 10 gajillion Hellcats of whatever variety, or Camaros or Mustangs or Corvettes, but there's never a ton of Vipers because they just didn't make a whole lot of them. So I think there's a good upside for these cars in the future. If you can get one for a decent price now and sit on it for a while, I think it's a good long-term buy. And if you just want a cool sports car that has some, exotic appeal and has 3 pedals and 10 cylinders, and you don't want to spend twice as much on an R8 or 3 times as much for a Huracan or something, I think this is a pretty cool car to step into. But what do you guys think of the Viper, particularly the 3rd generation? I really like the 3rd generation. I think that's the sweet spot. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Do we have any more cars that we made predictions on the last episode?
Go to commercial.
Oh, it's commercial time. Let's do that. I'm so excited to hear about Godden. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. That's right, fine Swiss repair, you guys. And if you have one of those cool watches that you got at Our Smiths, or you had serviced at Our Smiths, you can go and get a matching bracelet from Aaron Water and our friends at Guys Customs. So check that out on the Instagram, Aaron Water, ERINN Water on Instagram. DM her and she will get you a custom bracelet to match your fine Swiss watch. Check it out. And of course, if you need service for your fine Swiss watch, send it off to our good friends at Our Smiths. All right, guys. Have you lost faith in the car market, or are you like praising Jesus, praising the Lord? Are you all in? Have you a newfound sense of faith in the car market? We have a list of pretty darn cool cars tonight, and we are going to make some predictions. That's what we do on the show. You ready to do it, Michael Deeb?
Let's go. We'll stumble through a few of these, but why not?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
All right, JP, let's see. Who picked this one for us? Let me look at my list here.
Everyone.
Anthony Vieira sent this to me over a week ago. And yeah, everybody is talking about this car. JP, it's a 2004 Subaru Impreza WRX STi that is currently on Cars and Bids that looks like a pure full-out race car. This car has been run previously in events by Ken Block, who passed away, and Travis Pastrana, who's another big stud. And these are both American heroes who have made a name for themselves by not only racing and competing and carrying the flag for the States, but both guys are true entertainers who have taken advantage of their position in their sport and their talent and the proliferation of becoming a celebrity on social media. Travis Pastrana, with his what do they call it? Techno Circus. What's that thing called, JP?
I have no idea where you're going with that. Sorry.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's got his. Somebody will know it. He's got his own, like, it's literally a circus where they do stunts with cars and bikes and bicycles and stuff. And then Ken Block, obviously, with the and I'm going to forget the series, but the Gymkhana and all that stuff, where he's running around taking cars and throwing them sideways everywhere. So here's a car that these two guys have each run in rallying. Now here's where it gets really interesting, JP. I believe that the car that we're talking about started life as a street car that somebody turned into a race car that these guys later ran. And of course, now the car's got incredible provenance. But I don't believe this is one of Subaru STI's cars that was built in their skunk works and was like one of their team cars or client cars. This car still wears a plate. And so I believe its history is as a 17-digit VIN United States car that was then converted to a rally car. And that's significant because as we go down the road and talk about the car, the incredible performance and modifications of the vehicle itself, but I still think the motor is around a 300 to maybe 400 horsepower, basically stock street car motor that doesn't have any, my vocabulary is escaping me, but there's no smog equipment on this car. There's not going to be any limiters and stuff like that. It's just going to run unrestricted through the stock parts and components. And as such, I think it's going to be good for, like I said, between 300 and 400 horsepower, depending on how they dialed it in and what the guidelines of the rules are of anywhere that this car competed. If it were a full-on race car, JP, it would come with, like a seam-welded chassis and all kinds of trick parts and a case of spares and all that sort of thing. And I don't think that's what we're selling here. This is not a World Rally Provenance car. This is a domestic hero car, and one of the two heroes that's associated with the car has passed away. So it winds up producing a very murky value for the car, and we'll get into that in a minute. But John, talk to me about what you see when you see a car that is wearing, let me get a picture up here of it. What is this state that it's in? Can you read that plate, JP?
I'm not looking at it, sorry.
Yeah.
Who cares? Let's move on. Yeah, you keep going.
It's on a New Hampshire plate, but it's a completely gutted interior. The car does have a passenger seat, so you could do ride-alongs and show off with your friends. But this would be an incredibly uncomfortable car. It might have a defroster, but it does, does it have blinkers or anything like that? I really don't think this is a streetable car. So you have to consider, when you're going to pay big money for a car that's not a real race car, what are you going to use it for? And how are you going to hone it in and get that value out of it when you go to sell it, when it's your turn to get off the car? And so I think there's incredible challenges facing the potential buyer of this car with regards to what his asset is worth and what he'll be able to get for it down the road. Again, we can see all the street interior still adorning this car. My suspicions, I think, hold up pretty strong. So, John, I present back to you a converted street car to a rally car with incredible provenance and a posthumous American hero associated with the car. It's getting a lot of buzz because of its listing. What are your thoughts? What do you see how do you pull this one down?
Well, I mean, it is interesting that it does have a license plate. If it has a license plate, I guess that means you can drive it on the street. My initial thought when I saw this was that this is not a streetable car. And if this has been issued a plate, then I guess you're good to go. I wouldn't want to drive it on the street, but like our friend Rami wanted to buy a GT2 RS Cup car and drive it around, but we're like all going, no, bro, you can't you can't insure that. If you crash into somebody, everyone in the world is going to sue the hell out of you, and your insurance company ain't going to pay for any of it. So this, you can kind of get away with it sometimes with race cars. People get plates issued one way or the other, but if something bad happens, ultimately you could be in a world of hurt. I just don't understand the absolute fascination with, I'm going to say it, Ken Block. I just don't get, I think it's really cool, some of the stuff that he's done when he passed, and I didn't wish him any ill will when he passed. It was an amazing outpouring of love and support for him here in Vegas. There was a huge car gathering and drive down the strip after his passing. There had to have been 1,500 cars out there. That was a crazy night. But I just don't understand this adoration like he's some kind of, I mean, he's an automotive deity. It's like him and Paul Walker are looking down upon everyone. Oh, I just, I mean, I guess I appreciate everyone digging him more than any of the guys from Fast and the Furious, because unlike those actors, he actually does the driving. So that's pretty cool. But somebody's going to have to explain it to me and convince me why he's such a big deal. When we see cars that have been owned or driven by celebrities, a lot of times the expectation is big money, but the reality is it tends to be kind of a letdown 9 times out of 10. Is this going to be different? What do you think, Deeb? What's this car going to bring?
All right, JP. So here's where it gets real interesting. And everybody sit still for a second and let me go through this. A basic 2004 STi is a $27,000 on average conversation in the secondary market, according to our friends at classic.com. If this car were born from Subaru as a race team that was sold to either a privateer team or used by their own factory team, those factory race cars are a totally different conversation. 2004 STi race cars bring $270,000, exactly 10 times more expensive. Now, despite this car being raced in the United States by 2 rally legends of American flame in Block and Pastrana, this car is still a street car. So what you're paying for over the $27,000 is obviously partially the really cool parts. This car is a built rally car that can compete probably in some sort of historic series. And then you're also paying, if you're so inclined, for the provenance of who's driven the car and who's associated with it. And since it's 2 of America's best and brightest and youngest guys, and one of them's gone, a lot of people are talking about it. With that in mind, JP, our car closes tomorrow. It's currently sitting at $75,000 on 11 bids, and it's got a day to go. JP, I wrote a couple days ago $125,000. I have no idea where this car is going to go. That is a complete guess of just sort of reading the tea leaves. There's only a few bids on the car, but there is a lot of buzz about it. It's already up to 75, which is ludicrous for technically what it is. You could go buy another beat up converted street car into a race car that's raced and is still race ready. You could go buy another one for probably 30 grand. I don't think you have to spend 75 or more. So I really think the money that is coming onto this car is because it's their old car, their car they drove. So at that point, I'd say the 75 is already kind of all the money. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 125. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 165. I don't think this car will bring 200, and it also wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't make 100. I'm all over the board because it's anyone's guess. So JP, 125 to you. It's at 75 now. Where are you going to park your bid?
Yeah, I'm going to park it under you. I don't think we're going to see, speaking of rallies, a rally at the end of this auction. I'm going to say $99,000 FTS. I'm pretty optimistic. Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about cars in general right now, the classic car market. But I just, every time I've bet on a celebrity car, I've totally missed the boat on it. I've always thought that that's going to carry a bunch of extra, and Doug DeMuro just doesn't have the audience. I think it's the right audience. It's Doug DeMuro's audience is definitely the people that care about, Ken Block, and, Anthony's trying to give me ish saying, oh, I'm just too old and I don't get it because this guy was the X Games guy. I remember X Games. It was like, okay, whatever, but I just didn't care about any of the people that were involved in it. And is there a driver that I look up to from my generation? Who is the Gen X equivalent of Ken Block? I can't think of anyone that I give an ish about.
Senna and Schumacher,
Yeah, which I don't care about them either. People that name their kids after them and their dogs and stuff like that. It's like, what? Race car driver? Who cares? Who cares? Anyways,
Nikki Hayden.
So I'm going to say, I think I gave a number. Yeah, all those names just mean nothing to me. So, I just seriously don't care about race car drivers. I I like race cars. I like cars, but like racing to me doesn't mean anything to me. It's like watching golf. I just don't freaking get it. It's fun to do, but I don't want to watch it and I don't want to pay attention to any of it. But I know everyone's going to be pissing. They're going to be so mad at me for saying all that, but it's true. I don't. All right. What do you guys think this car we're going to bring? I don't think it's going to break 100. Deeb thinks it's going to bring a little bit more. Everybody else seems to think it's going to go over.
I'm going to steal a win off your bid because I think if it gets to 99, I think it sells. I just say you've got a race car. It's such a narrow audience. You've gotten all the buzz. I think this guy, like, again, it should only be a $30,000, $40,000 car with all that equipment on it as a used converted from street to race car. So I think if it gets to 99, I think it sells. I don't think somebody's sitting on this at Christmas time going, no, I'll wait till next year and get my 150. It's now or never, buddy. You got one chance to drop this on the people and get your money. So I think 99, it sells, JP. So I'll steal a half a win off your bid if it goes to your number. I think it goes anyway. I think it leaves now.
It's like a great Christmas gift for a crypto bro, for another crypto bro.
Yeah.
Anthony's like, Ken Block was an automotive lifestyle icon, and he's surprised that I can't see this with my love for Luft. I don't see that. I don't see the relationship at all. Yeah, he was an automotive icon. I hate his sensibilities. His style is just like repulsive. Just like, I hate all the bright, silly colors. I talk about that all the time. All the logos all over everything. It just looks like a NASCAR. I can't. That's the worst kind of stuff to me. And the thing about Luft Cult that I like about it is that it doesn't really have anything to do with racing at all. It has everything to do with the driving the cars around lifestyle. That's what I like about the driving. That's what I love about the automotive lifestyle, is having a cool car, having something that's fun, and going out and driving it on a weekend or daily or anytime you can get behind the wheel of a cool car and enjoying it in that moment. I don't care about racing it. I don't care about showing it off at a car show. It doesn't mean that I don't like going to car shows, but the reason why I like going to car shows is because it's fun to go with the car and see the other cars and really meet all your friends. The race thing, that just... yeah, I just don't see the connection there at all. But you're going to have to pull out the crayons for me, Anthony, and make it a little bit more clear. All right, guys, what do you think that Ken Block car is going to bring? Is it going to bring the extra money because his name's attached to it? Or do we think it's not going to cross the finish line? Let us know. And let's move on. We have some other cars to talk about. What do we got on the list? Have people lost faith in the car market? What do we got?
I saw this car when it dropped, and I got to tell you, man, I almost choked. Somebody built a Beck GTS Lightweight, which basically looks like a 904 GTS. They built it with a 2007 3.6-liter GT3 Mesker engine. So that's 415 horsepower if they're running cats on it. My guess is, because this car is completely smog exempt, even plated in California, that this car is uncorked to just run like a straight exhaust. Maybe with a couple of mufflers, but like there's you don't have to put any charcoal on this motor to get it to breathe clean. So I'm thinking this car is probably making closer to 450 horsepower. And JP, tell me again what these cars weigh. Aren't these like sub 2,000 pound?
Yeah,
cars?
Way under a couple thousand pounds. I mean, it's going to be a little bit more with the radiator in this one, stuff like that. But
but the power to weight ratio. And the way that this car has been dialed in, somebody didn't just drop a motor in either. It looks like they've gone to great lengths, JP, to develop this car to actually go and stop and handle. Believe it or not, John, it is paired with a 915 gear, which I'm sure is going to offend a lot of people. But listen, if you have a 904 that doesn't have bashed up dog teaks, this is probably one of the fastest gear changes you can make if the box is in good condition. Again, the gears are smaller and lighter, so they're going to spin faster and they're going to shift. If you know how to drive a manual, this gearbox is going to do you a big favor. So an incredible build. Boyd Connington staggered with 17-inch wheels that look very period correct, despite being what we would call oversized. They don't look cartoonishly so on this car. About the only thing that's missing here, JP, is a livery. And for my money, I'd want to have a passenger seat. I would love to take somebody for a drive in a car like this and show off, because I think you could scare the snot out of people with the levels of performance a car like this can produce. You'd want absolute race compound tires to try and get as much grip as possible because there's so much power and there's so little weight to push around. JP, you talk about our buddy Tony Mazzagatti, who built one of these with a 3.2, and Tony likes to brag that the car has a power to weight ratio of a contemporary GT3 or GT3 RS. This, I'm going to tell you, is like real race car levels of performance when you consider the power and the weight, and hopefully the overall grip. Not a lot of aero going to do you any favors, so you're just looking for mechanical grip and a really, really good tire, and you're probably wearing a helmet every time you drive this thing. So JP, it's on Bring a Trailer. It was not even a premium listing, just a regular listing. I do think it's a really special car. It's listed out of California. It's got 41,000 miles shown, but it's true mileage unknown. I don't know how many miles are on it since they did the work. But again, based on what I could see, they didn't just slam a motor in there and cut it to fit. They really did try to get this thing to be right. And so I would say this is arguably the highest total performance of any Beck GTS Lightweight that has ever been produced. If you ever wanted one, somebody already did the work for you. This is your chance to give yourself arguably the greatest Christmas gift ever. John, I would love, I don't think I'd ever, you and I are both not good passengers. I would not want to ride shotgun in this car, but man, would I love to drive it and would I love to own it. This thing is great. And I kind of dig the colorway too. It's sort of a polar silver. I think it'd be really fun to do some, even just like white meatballs and just keep it real soft, but do a little livery, get a couple stickers on there, and have some fun with this. What a car. JP, take it away. You know these cars better than I do. What do you see when you look at this one?
This is ultimate dream car stuff right here.
Yeah.
Even if it were in that puke, stupid Wimbledon green, I would still love it. This thing is just what dreams are made out of. But this sucker could turn into a nightmare really quick. Being inside one of these, I have driven Tony Mazzagatti's 904 with a 3.2, and that thing just doesn't feel like a human being should be in that car. It feels like you've been shrunken down and you're like riding in the head of a race car somewhere between the valves. It's kind of like in Star Trek or whatever, where you're one of those contraptions where all the stuff is coming down and pipes and everything, and you got to jump through, like in Galaxy Quest. It just seems like, no, this wasn't built for anything alive to be in here. Yet there's a seat and a steering wheel, and it's just, you're so low to the ground. No one can see you. Look at this. Just the grill alone over the engine. Look at that. All these milled parts. Oh my God, this thing is just everything about this car. I'm so excited about. Look, if you guys know our good friend Rami, I'm in the Rami studio. I've already texted him this listing. He's always looking at crazy, stupid, nutty cars. But a lot of times people are like, "Oh, Rami should buy this or Rami should buy that." This is the, like, short of a CGT, this is kind of like the ultimate Rami car to me. This is something that should not be allowed on the street, yet here it is. It exists. Tony's car is a crazy, fast, scary to drive car. I can't imagine what this is like. It's got to have twice as much power. It's got to be just like, I just sear the hair off your balls every time you shift this thing. You're just going to be on fire, trying not to die. God, I love this car. Everybody needs to text Rami and tell him he needs to buy this thing. Screw that he's looking at a 964 turbo thing right now that is really cool, but compared to this, it's nothing. What's this car going to bring, Deeb? Do you think anyone's going to spend big money on it?
So I just want to remind everybody, this car is offered on a clean California title, and the California title is listing it as a 1969 Porsche. I don't know how they pulled that off. I thought all the contemporary Becks, if you got one on a California plate, it's because you applied for one of those like 150 builder exemption things that, like our buddy David Keen's got for his 904 in California. And that's how he runs his car without having to smog it and it being built in modern day, but it still, basically runs as an old car. It's amazing. Somehow this GT3 is running through a 4-barrel carburetor, JP. I don't know how they did that. There's still more for me to learn about internal combustion, but that's how they do it. If it were in stock configuration, John, it would be running individual throttle bodies, but I imagine this allows them to run the car a bit more analog, and they don't have to have such a crazy ECU to govern the car. JP, It's hard to find any data. We've only seen a couple of Becks sell on Bring a Trailer, both for under 100. This car is in a completely different program than those 4 and 6 cylinder. Most of those are running early long hood air cooled motors of 2 and 2.2 liter displacement. This is running a 997 GT3 motor, and from 2007 that starts at 415 horsepower. Unbelievable performance, JP. If you wanted to go and get a Beck today, you're starting at 150 grand and you still got to put a motor in it. This one's already done with a $50,000 to $60,000 motor. So I don't know, John. Our car is currently sitting at $80,000, $80,500. That comes to us by way of 20 bids, and it still has 2 days to go until it closes. It actually closes, John, on Tuesday, December 3rd. So, JP, a while ago, I put $165,000 as the hammer where I think it will sell. I think it has to get to that if it's going to sell. I don't think you're going to let a car like this go for less than 150. I think you've just got too much money into it. I'm surprised the guy that didn't isn't keeping it, but JP, that's a common story. The guy who builds it always sells it, and the guy who buys it first after gets the best value for it. So 165, it wouldn't shock me if this car brought over $200,000 because, again, you couldn't replicate it for less than that. So I think you're safe to buy it up to 200 grand. But I just feel like this is still such a weird time of the year to sell even a really cool car like this. So I'm going to go 165 and say it sells. But they could, it could get to 165 and not sell. That wouldn't also, I wouldn't raise an eyebrow at that. I wouldn't say, oh, you should have taken the money. I just say, what are you expecting in December with a car that has such a narrow appeal? Like everybody loves it, but how many people are actually going to bid on it to buy it? So I think if you get anywhere near my number, you should be taking it. And I think you're safe chasing a car like this right up to about 200 grand. If you get over 200, then you can start thinking, well, maybe I can make one of my own. But man, it cost you a lot more now, probably almost 300, I think, today to start from scratch. So JP, where are you at on this one? I'm going 165.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the regular ones with 3.2s and 3 liters and 2.7s and stuff like that go for around 100 grand, give or take. I've seen them listed every now and then, but none of them are, I mean, just a GT3, a water pumper Metzger GT3 engine. How much is that engine? That's $80-something thousand for one of those.
Grand. Yeah,
you think 60? I think it's more, but I could be wrong. Somebody let me know. And then doing all the custom stuff. I mean, the guy who's selling this looked like he was he's up there in age. I think he just can't climb in and out of this thing. It's hard. I'm amazed every time I see Tony get in and out of his because I'm creaking and cracking when I try to get in and out of the damn thing. And Tony's almost 80. So this car is definitely for someone young or young at heart. I think it's going to bring the big money. I think it's tough to find anything this cool and unique for $200,000. I mean, I know you could get, there's a million resto modded 911s out there, kind of Singer wannabes and stuff like that. But this car is just going to turn heads everywhere you go at Cars and Coffees. That's hard to do these days. And this car definitely has the potential. I'm with you, Deeb. It needs another seat, even though I sure wouldn't want to be the person sitting in that passenger seat. F that. That said, is it going to break 200? I think it might, but I'm going to be safe and park my bid at 185,904 and say it gets close to 200, and I think it sells. And I think that's a deal because I'm with you, Deeb. You can't buy this. You can't build this. And if you did, not only is it going to cost you a couple $100,000 or more, it's going to take years. And if you want something this cool right now, I'm tomorrow morning, I'm talking to Rami and I'm going to be pushing hard that he gets this car. Cause this is the car he needs to get it, because if he gets it, that means I get to drive it. So it's self-serving. Sorry. I'm just going to be, that's simple. Oh boy. All right. What do you guys think this 904 with a GT3 engine will bring? Let us know. Do you have faith in a fake 904 or do you think it's going to stall out? Let's see what you say. Everyone in the comments are all over the place. Some people are under 100 all the way up to 200. So this is a pretty big spread, even for the nerd herd. So, all right, we got more cars. What do we got?
All right, JP, I selected for us a 1999 Ferrari 360 Modena with a 6-speed manual transmission. JP, somebody took this car and made just a few tasteful modifications to make it look like a manual transmission Challenge Stradale. Ferrari made a special edition of the 360 in 2004 called the Challenge Stradale, which was basically firmer suspension, a little more horsepower, a little lighter weight, a little more ultimate grip, better brakes, better wheels and tire combination. But those 2004 1-year only Challenge Stradales, of which Ferrari only built 1,300, they were all single manual clutch, one of those floppy gearboxes, the F1 gearbox. And that gearbox is terrible. The dream scenario 20 years down the road is, why didn't Ferrari make a Challenge Stradale with a 6-speed manual? So somebody kind of took a really nicely equipped 360 Modena with a 6-speed and put the Challenge rear grille, the Challenge BBS wheels, the Challenge front apron, and the seats that would have been standard in the Challenge, which are these big, beautiful, chunky, carbon fiber racing buckets. And what you have here now is a car on Bring a Trailer with 32,000 miles that looks like a hell of a driver's car. For around $100,000, JP, I defy you to have, more fun in an Italian car than this. So listed out of Denver, Colorado. It's got some fancy exhaust on it and some coilover suspension, which are just going to enhance the thing. About the only thing that it's missing is it still has the 360's standard steel brakes, which are not bad, but they're not the fancy. When they made the 04 Challenge Stradale, I think that was the first time Ferrari put, carbon fiber brakes, ceramic brakes, I should say, on a road car. So it doesn't have the carbon brakes, but other than that, it's got all the goods. So super nice car, decent colorway. It's all black. The wheels make it look good, the more aggressive front air dam, and then it's got your manual transmission. So instead of taking a Challenge Stradale and doing a manual swap, they found a nicely equipped 360 Modena that already had the stick and put on the last few things that when it drives by, you would look at it and go, Challenge Stradale, and you'd be wrong. But the guy who's right is the one that bought it and is having all the fun driving it. I kind of dig this car, JP. I don't hate it. What do you think? It's in your colorway, so I imagine you're going to like this one.
Yeah, I mean, I love the car, but I just don't understand. We've been ishing on, everyone on the internet has been ishing all over Jaguar for their silly DEI, campaign that they just came out with that doesn't even advertise a car. This is one of these cars. I see the car that even 20 years ago, they didn't get it. Why are car manufacturers so hell-bent on not giving the customers what they want? This is the car they should have built in the first place. They should still be building stuff like this. I would rather have this Ferrari right here that, let's face it, is probably, like you said, only worth around $100,000. Not even, I mean, what's the cheapest Ferrari made right now? The Roma or something like that?
Yep.
You couldn't give me a Roma. Yeah, for $350,000, I would way rather have this car. If somebody said, I'm going to extract $350,000 from you, and you can either have the Roma or this car, even though I know full well that this one's worth a third of what the Roma is, I'd still rather have this one because at least I would enjoy driving it and wouldn't be embarrassed to look at it. What the hell is wrong with modern car companies? Ferrari just came out with this thing following on the heels of Jaguar. We proudly reaffirm our commitment to equity, equality, and inclusion by endorsing the new diverse. Yeah, it's like, what are you guys doing? And it's a picture of a bunch of white people. It's like, just shut up. Just make the cars people want. Put a stick in a goddamn car and who cares? I just shut up about it. Oh my gosh, I'm so over it. But I love this car. What's it going to bring?
All right, JP, our car is currently sitting at $106,000, and it closes tomorrow. That's on 17 bids, so it's got some good early action. According to Classic.com, JP, a manual transmission 1999 360 Modena is about $111,500 car. Our car is at 106, and it's got a day to go. I think it's going to get all the way up to $136,000. And just for context, JP, if this were a 30,000 mile, all black, no stripe Challenge Stradale, we'd be looking at around $230,000 to $250,000, maybe a little bit more. Challenge Stradales bring big money. You can have this car for basically less than half, and it's got a manual, and you don't have to worry about it. So 136 to you, JP. You going to go over or under my bid?
I'm going to go over by just a little bit. I mean, not much. I'm going to go 39 360. The pictures, by the way, this car is presented very well. They're not overly done. It's just right. The lighting is perfect. Really cool background setting. It's not jammed up against a graffiti wall or something stupid. This thing is presented in a way that really does give us that romance. And yeah, gotta love that all black cockpit.
Those seats are so comfortable, JP.
Yeah,
they are amazing seats. They're really good seats. I'm bummed that they don't produce something like that now. The carbon shells that are in your newest, Pista or Scuderia or whatever are so thin with a foam inside. They're like absolutely race car seats that are good for an hour's worth of driving. I don't understand why Ferrari is putting shit like that on a street car and selling it to their millionaire general public. It's so pretentious. It's unbelievable. But those seats right there are you could fall asleep on the way to LA, and there's adjustments to them and stuff, and then you could put a racing harness.
They're not fixed.
They're great
they're
seats.
Actually
they're absolutely great seats. Yeah. Too bad.
All right, what do you guys think the Ferrari 360 with a manual will bring? It's a swap, but how badass is that? You can't buy anything like this, so you got to find something custom made. Let us know in the comments. Do we have time? We got time for one more car really quick.
We do have time for one more car. So JP, Chris Carbine sent us this 1968 Mercedes-Benz 280 SL that is currently listed on Bring a Trailer out of Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. So basically 280 SL. Very cool car, JP. They've been making the SL since the 1950s. This is sort of in the lineage of the 190 SL rather than the 300. This was, more like, the little sports car you could park in your garage rather than the homologated race car that you took on big events. So rather than Grand Touring, this is almost like a town car or a country car, but not a Grand Touring car to get you from town to the country. If it makes any sense. There's not a lot of room for luggage in this thing. It's just a 2-seat roadster. When we look at secondary market for these cars, we look to see if it's got a manual transmission. We look to see if it's got a hard top. We look to see if it's got air conditioning. And then we look to see if it's got the original Becker radio and that sort of thing. So JP, our car is an automatic. It turns out it does have the hard top, but inexplicably, JP, when they refreshed this car and repainted it in its original shade of dark olive green, they did not do the hard top. So later in the bucket of photos, JP, you will find photos of an unrestored hard top with glass out and no liner. I mean, talk about missing the boat. When the hard top is part of the collectability of the car, how could you not put butter in those cracks and take care of that? Like, that just talk about a swing and a miss. I don't understand when people skimp on redoing your car. If you're going to do it to the point of what's going to give it the broadest appeal when you're done with the car. And so here they went and redid the interior and the underside, and they got the wheels and all the stuff, but they didn't do the hardtop, and the hardtop is kind of it's a big piece of the puzzle. And it's not to say it couldn't be done, but that's going to prevent you. It's a hurdle on the road to the sale. And that's what we're talking about, is what's it going to take for this car to bring all the money. This guy's already started off on the wrong foot. So the wrong gearbox. I don't think this car has AC. It does have the hardtop, but the hardtop's unfinished, which is almost like not having the hardtop. So John, these could be pretty valuable cars. And despite this one being refinished, I think, and it's not Carbine's car, but I'm going to say Chris's car.
How much is it going to bring? How much is it going to bring? We got to move it on.
All right, JP. So according to Classic.com, 280 SLs bring typically $99,200. Our car is sitting at $45,000 by way of 5 bids, and it closes in 3 days. I thought Chris's car would bring $79,000, but man, it's got a long ways to go even to get to my number. So 79 to you, JP. Where you at?
I'm going to say 65 grand. This is the perfect car for the survivor, the guy who is, he's in his 70s, he's in his 80s, he's living in the old folks' home. Look, the thing is, women live 10 to 30 years longer than men on average. So dudes in the old folks' retirement home, they get around, right? STDs are a big problem in retirement homes. And the guy who's going around visiting all the lovely ladies and all their little, places and having himself a good night with a different one every night. This is the car he's driving to and from the villa, and passing those STDs around the old folks home. That's what I think. And I love the car. It's very classy, very cool. But hopefully it comes with some condoms. All right, guys, definitely a boomer car.
If Carbine buys this car for Ann for Christmas and you associate it with STDs, you've got some explaining to do.
Am I the one explaining to do, or does he have the one explaining to do?
Oh,
all right, guys. We are going to take it out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Make sure you go over to Aaron Water at Aaron Water on Instagram. That's ERINN Water not .com, but Aaron Water on Instagram, and you can buy some Bid Nerds swag, and we will be back Wednesday night, and we're going to take it out with a cruise around the F1 track on the Las Vegas Boulevard in Rami's Roof. We will see you guys Wednesday night.